The Vulcan warlords froze in disbelief as the human mechanic, a mere speck in the cosmos, unleashed technology that defied the laws of the universe. In that moment, the balance of power shifted, and the fate of galaxies hung by a thread. Douglas Jones, a humble mechanic, had stumbled upon an artifact of immeasurable power, the quantum key. As it bonded with his flesh, knowledge flooded his mind, illuminating the secrets of an ancient race that once seeded the stars with marvels beyond imagination. But the key's activation had not gone unnoticed. High Commander Umbra, the most formidable of the Vulcan leaders, mobilized his forces, determined to seize the artifact and subjugate the audacious human who dared to wield it. Warships descended upon Earth, their weapons primed to annihilate any resistance. Cornered and desperate, Douglas tapped into the key's potential, conjuring an impenetrable barrier and unleashing a swarm of nanobots that tore through the Vulcans' defenses like a hot knife through butter. The warlords, once confident in their supremacy, found themselves outmatched by a power they had never before encountered. As the dust settled, a tense negotiation unfolded. The Vulcans, humbled by the humans' display of impossible technology, sought to understand the nature of the key and the implications of its bonding with a mere mortal. Douglas, grappling with the weight of his newfound abilities, realized that the fate of not only humanity but the entire universe rested on his shoulders. As the Vulcan warships retreated, a tense calm settled over Earth. The sudden shift in power dynamics sent shockwaves through the galactic community, and soon, an unprecedented message arrived from the heart of the Vulcan Empire. High Commander Umbra himself requested a diplomatic meeting with Earth's leaders to discuss the quantum key and its implications for the future of both civilizations. World governments, initially skeptical of the Vulcans' intentions, found themselves stunned into silence when Douglas demonstrated the key's abilities under controlled conditions. The display of raw power left no doubt in their minds. Humanity had stumbled upon a technology that could reshape the very fabric of the universe. An emergency session of the United Nations Security Council was swiftly convened, with Douglas and Umbra invited to attend as representatives of their respective peoples. As the two unlikely allies took their seats at the negotiating table, an air of anticipation and unease permeated the room. Umbra, his voice resonating with a mix of reverence and concern, revealed the true nature of the quantum key. The artifact you possess is but one piece of a vast network scattered across the galaxy by an ancient civilization long since vanished, he explained. Each key holds a fragment of their knowledge and power, and together they have the potential to unlock wonders beyond imagination. The Vulcan High Commander urged Earth's leaders to place the quantum key under the protection of his people, the Vulcan Guardians. He argued that their knowledge and resources made them uniquely qualified to safeguard the artifact from those who would seek to abuse its power for their own gain. However, not all of Earth's representatives were convinced. Senator Ethan Blackwood, a charismatic and ambitious figure, stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with tenacity. While we appreciate the Vulcans' offer, we cannot simply hand over the key and trust that our interests will be protected, he declared. Humanity must retain control of this technology to ensure that it is used for the benefit of our people and our planet. Douglas found himself torn between the two sides, understanding the potential benefits and risks of both arguments. As the debate intensified, he couldn't shake the feeling that the true scope of the quantum key's power had yet to be revealed. Just as the negotiations seemed to reach an impasse, reports began flooding in from across the globe. Strange energy signatures had appeared in various locations, emanating from long-dormant structures hidden deep beneath the Earth's surface. The Vulcan Guardians quickly realized that these anomalies were caused by the activation of ancient alien constructs, known as Nexus Gates, which were connected to the quantum key network. The revelation of the Nexus Gates' existence further complicated the already tense situation, as different nations and factions vied for control over the portals and the power they represented. Douglas, overwhelmed by the weight of his newfound responsibilities, sought guidance from an unexpected source, the Vulcan High Priestess Lyra. Lyra, a wise and enigmatic figure, became a trusted advisor to Douglas, helping him navigate the treacherous political landscape and understand the true nature of the quantum key's power. Through their conversations, Douglas began to glimpse the vast potential of the ancient technology and the role he might play in shaping the future of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Yet even as he grappled with these weighty matters, Douglas couldn't shake the feeling that an even greater threat loomed on the horizon. Unbeknownst to him, in the darkest reaches of space, an ancient and malevolent force had begun to stir, drawn by the reawakening of the quantum keys. The Tsenkethis, a race of biomechanical beings with a history of war and conquest, had set their sights on Earth and the power it now possessed. As the Tsenkethi threat grew ever closer, Douglas knew that he would need to forge an alliance between humanity and the Vulcans if there was any hope of survival. With Umbra, Lyra, and Senator Blackwood at his side, he began to delve deeper into the secrets of the quantum key network and the ancient civilization that had created it. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but Douglas was determined to protect his world and uncover the truth at any expense. The appearance of the Nexus gates had barely settled into global consciousness when reports of strange energy signatures in deep space reached Earth. Douglas, still grappling with the weight of the quantum key's power, found himself thrust into a new crisis. "We've detected a massive fleet approaching the outer reaches of our solar system," Senator Blackwood announced, his face grim as he addressed the emergency council. "Our long-range scans confirm it's not Vulcan." High Commander Umbra's eyes narrowed. The Tsenkethis. They've finally made their move. As the council erupted into panicked debate, Douglas felt a gentle touch on his arm. He turned to see the Vulcan High Priestess Lyra, her eyes filled with ancient wisdom. "There is more to the quantum key than we yet understand," she said softly. "We must seek the Codex of Ethereal Wisdom." Douglas furrowed his brow. "What's that?" "An artifact of immense knowledge, created by those who forged the keys," Lyra explained. "It may hold the answers we need to face this threat." Within hours, a joint human-Vulcan expedition was assembled. As their ship, the Stargazer, prepared for launch, Douglas stood at the viewport, the Earth growing smaller behind them. Umbra approached, his usual stern demeanor tinged with something akin to respect. "The Codex is said to be hidden in the archives of eternity on Zephyrus Prime," Umbra said, "a world shrouded in mystery and danger." The journey to Zephyrus Prime was fraught with peril. Twice they narrowly avoided Tsenkethi patrols, the Stargazer's advanced cloaking technology proving its worth. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, the ship bucked and shuddered. "Multiple gravitational anomalies detected," the pilot shouted. "Brace for impact!" They crash-landed in a field of twisted metal and crystalline structures. As the team emerged from the Stargazer, they found themselves surrounded by the ruins of an impossibly advanced civilization. "By the gods," Umbra breathed, his stoic facade cracking. "What manner of beings could have built this?" Before Douglas could respond, a hail of energy bolts rained down upon them. Tsenkethi warriors, their biomechanical bodies gleaming in the alien sun, swarmed from hidden positions. "Ambush!" Lyra cried out, raising a force field with her staff. Douglas's mind raced. He reached out with the quantum key, feeling its power surge through him. With a thought, he conjured shimmering energy shields around his companions and manifested pulsing orbs of destructive force. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Douglas and his team fought valiantly, but the Tsenkethi's numbers seemed endless. Just as all seemed lost, a towering Tsenkethi commander stepped forward, his metallic voice booming across the battlefield. "I am Zorgax, and you will surrender the key or be obliterated." In that moment of desperation, Douglas felt something unlock within the quantum key. He raised his hand, and a wave of energy rippled outward, shorting out the Tsenkethi's weapons and paralyzing their biomechanical bodies. "Run!" Douglas shouted to his companions. "To the archives!" They sprinted through the ruins, the temporary effects of Douglas's power already wearing off. As they reached a massive structure covered in pulsing symbols, the ground beneath them shifted. They fell, tumbling through holographic barriers and impossible geometries. When they finally came to a stop, they found themselves in a vast chamber filled with swirling data streams and flickering images of long-lost worlds. A voice, both ancient and newborn, filled their minds. "I am Zephyr, guardian of the archives of eternity. Who seeks the wisdom of the Celestials? Douglas stepped forward, the quantum key humming with recognition. We need your help to save our worlds from the Tsenkethis. Zephyr's presence seemed to consider this. The knowledge you seek comes with great responsibility. Are you prepared for the burden it will bring? Before Douglas could answer, the chamber shook with the impact of Tsenkethi weapons. The archive's defenses were crumbling. We don't have time for tests, Umbra growled. Either help us or doom us all. Zephyr's response was immediate and unexpected. The swirling data coalesced around Douglas, merging with the quantum key. In an instant, his mind exploded with the collected knowledge of the Celestials. As the chamber doors began to buckle under the Tsenkethi assault, Douglas turned to his companions, his eyes glowing with newfound power and understanding. I know what we need to do, he said, his voice resonating with the wisdom of ages. But we'll have to work together. Are you with me? Umbra, Lyra, and the others nodded, readying themselves for the battle to come. As the doors finally gave way and Zorgax's forces poured in, Douglas raised the quantum key, its power amplified by the knowledge of the Codex. The fate of galaxies hung in the balance as the two sides clashed. Ancient technology and newfound alliances pitted against the relentless might of the Tsenkethis. The battle for the archives of eternity had begun, and with it, the struggle for the future of all sentient life. As the dust settled in the archives of eternity, Douglas stood amidst the chaos, his legs shaking from the influx of celestial knowledge. The quantum key pulsed with newfound power, its energy intertwining with the wisdom of ages. We need to move, Umbra urged, his eyes darting between the fallen Tsenkethi warriors and the swirling data streams of the archives. The Stargazer won't hold out forever. Douglas nodded, his gaze distant as he processed the information flooding his consciousness. The Nexus gates on Earth, he said, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. We must secure them before it's too late. As they raced back to the Stargazer, Douglas relayed his plan to his companions. The knowledge from the Codex had revealed the true extent of the quantum key network and the potential devastation if it fell into the wrong hands. Upon their return to Earth, they found a world in turmoil. Senator Ethan Blackwood had wasted no time in mobilizing global support, his charismatic speeches echoing across news channels and social media platforms. The fate of our planet, our very existence, hangs in the balance, Blackwood proclaimed from the steps of the United Nations. We must stand united to protect the Nexus gates and harness their power for the good of humanity. Douglas and his team worked tirelessly, integrating celestial technology into the existing gate defenses. Massive energy shields shimmered into existence around each facility, while automated defense systems materialized from seemingly thin air. But the Tsenkethis were not easily deterred. As Douglas oversaw the reinforcement of the Antarctic Gate, alarms blared throughout the complex. Multiple breaches detected, a technician shouted, her fingers flying across holographic displays. They're using some kind of phase shift technology to bypass our outer defenses. Before Douglas could react, a blur of motion caught his eye. A high-ranking military officer he didn't recognize raised a weapon, firing directly at him. Douglas instinctively activated the quantum key's protective field, the energy blast dissipating harmlessly against it. The officer's form shimmered and warped, revealing the lithe biomechanical body of a Tsenkethi assassin. Xerxia! Umbra growled, raising his own weapon. Xerxia's liquid metal form flowed and shifted, her body twisting into impossible shapes as she engaged Douglas and Umbra in combat. Her attacks were relentless, each blow infused with a fraction of the quantum key's power. How? Douglas gasped, narrowly avoiding a strike that left a crater in the reinforced floor. Xerxia's laughter echoed metallically through the chamber. You're not the only ones with secrets, human. The battle raged through the gate facility, alarms blaring as Tsenkethi forces pushed deeper into the complex. Douglas found himself on the defensive, struggling to counter Xerxia's shape-shifting abilities and stolen quantum energy. Just as Xerxia seemed poised to land a killing blow, a wave of psychic energy rippled through the air. Lyra stood in the doorway, her staff pulsing with power, flanked by a contingent of Vulcan warriors. Now, Douglas! Lyra shouted, her mental assault disrupting Xerxia's concentration. Seizing the moment, Douglas channeled the full might of the quantum key. Energy cascaded from his body, enveloping Xerxia in a cocoon of pure force. The assassin's form writhed and contorted before collapsing into unconsciousness. As the remaining Tzenkethi forces retreated, Douglas allowed himself a moment of relief, but the victory was short-lived. A deafening crack split the air, and the very fabric of reality seemed to tear. The damaged Nexus gate sparked and sputtered, its energies spiraling out of control. "By the gods," Umbra breathed, staring at the widening rift. "What have we done?" Through the tear in space-time, glimpses of a nightmarish realm became visible. Writhing tentacles and impossible geometries pulsed beyond the threshold, and an otherworldly howl echoed through the facility. "The Void Dwellers," Douglas whispered, the celestial knowledge providing a name for the horrors they faced. "We need to contain this now." As they scrambled to stabilize the gate, proximity alarms blared once again. A sleek alien vessel, unlike anything they'd encountered, materialized above the Antarctic base. "Unidentified craft, this is a restricted area," Blackwood's voice crackled over the comms. "Identify yourself immediately." A beam of light engulfed Douglas and his companions, and they found themselves transported to a chamber of liquid crystal and pulsing bioluminescence. Before them stood a being of pure energy, its form barely constrained by an intricate exosuit. "I am Archon Prime of the Trith," the being announced, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "And you will cease your reckless use of the quantum keys immediately." Douglas opened his mouth to respond, but a distant explosion rocked the ship. Through the crystalline walls, he saw Tzenkethi warships descending on the Antarctic base. The universe teetered on the brink of chaos, and Douglas knew that his next move would shape the fate of not just Earth, but all of reality. Reality. The Archon Prime's proclamation hung in the air, interrupted by the chaos unfolding outside the crystalline chamber. "We don't have time for this," Douglas said, his mind racing with the newfound celestial knowledge. "Earth is under attack, and we need to—" A searing pain lanced through his skull, dropping him to his knees. Images flashed before his eyes. Ancient beings of pure energy, a hidden bloodline, and a destiny centuries in the making. "Douglas!" Lyra cried, rushing to his side. He looked up at his companions, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. I understand now. The quantum key, my connection to it, it wasn't an accident." The Archon Prime's form pulsed with interest. "You have unlocked the truth of your heritage." Douglas stood, his voice resonating with newfound power. "I am a descendant of the Celestials. Their blood flows through my veins." The revelation sent shockwaves through the group. Umbra's eyes narrowed with suspicion, while Lyra's widened in awe. Before anyone could respond, a holographic display materialized, showing Senator Blackwood's face. "Douglas, we're under attack. Tzenkethi forces are breaching Nexus gates worldwide. We need you back here now." The Archon Prime waved a limb, and they found themselves instantly transported back to the Antarctic base. Chaos reigned as Tzenkethi warriors poured through the destabilized gate. "How did they bypass our defenses?" Umbra growled, raising his weapon. Xerxia, now conscious and restrained, let out a bitter laugh. "You should have killed me when you had the chance. My team extracted every bit of intel from my mind before this mission." Douglas's mind raced, processing the celestial knowledge and the dire situation before him. He reached out with the quantum key, feeling its power surge through his enhanced being. "Everyone, get behind me!" he shouted. With a gesture, Douglas unleashed the full might of the quantum key. A shimmering dome of energy expanded outward, enveloping the entire planet. The Tzenkethi invaders found themselves cut off from their reinforcements, trapped on Earth. As the energy field stabilized, Douglas felt his strength waning. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was the awestruck faces of his companions. Days later, Douglas awoke in a medical bay, his body connected to a web of alien technology. Lyra stood nearby, her face etched with concern. "What happened?" Douglas croaked, his throat dry. "You've been unconscious for days," Lyra explained. The energy drain from creating the planetary shield nearly killed you. As Douglas's senses returned, he became aware of raised voices outside the room. He recognized Umbra's gruff tones and Senator Blackwood's authoritative cadence. "We can't trust him," Blackwood was saying. "For all we know, his celestial blood makes him a security risk. He could be influenced by alien agendas." "And who are we to judge the wisdom of the Celestials?" a Vulcan voice countered. "He must be brought to our world for proper guidance and training." Douglas struggled to sit up, but Lyra gently pushed him back down. "Rest," she said. "There's much to discuss when you're stronger." Through the window, Douglas saw the shimmering barrier of his creation encasing the Earth. It had bought them time, but at what cost? The alliance he had fought so hard to forge was fracturing before his eyes. A new voice cut through the argument outside, the resonant tones of the Archon Prime. "Your bickering is pointless. We offer a solution to end this conflict once and for all." Douglas strained to hear the Trithan leader's words, a sense of dread growing in the pit of his stomach. As the Archon Prime laid out their proposal, he realized that the battle for Earth's future, and perhaps the fate of the entire universe, had only just begun. Douglas's eyes fluttered open, the stark white of the medical bay ceiling coming into focus. His body felt leaden, his mind struggling to process the flood of information from his metaphysical communion with the Celestials. "He's awake!" Lyra's voice cut through the fog. She leaned over him, her features etched with concern and relief. As Douglas tried to sit up, a wave of dizziness washed over him. Lyra gently supported his shoulders, helping him into a seated position. "How long?" Douglas croaked, his throat dry from disuse. 3 weeks, Lyra replied, offering him a glass of water. "Things have changed while you were out." Before she could elaborate, the door slid open with a hiss. Senator Blackwood strode in, flanked by 2 stern-faced security officers. "Ah, our celestial heir has deigned to rejoin us," Blackwood said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I trust your little nap was enlightening?" Douglas frowned, sensing the hostility radiating from the man. "Senator, Save it," Blackwood cut him off. "Your alien blood makes you a security risk. Until we can determine your true loyalties, you'll remain under guard." Lyra stepped between them, her eyes flashing. "This is outrageous. Douglas has done nothing but help us." "Stand down, Lyra," a familiar voice rumbled. Umbra entered the room, his massive frame filling the doorway. "The human has a point. Douglas's connection to the Celestials cannot be ignored." Douglas's mind reeled. The alliance he had worked so hard to forge was fracturing before his eyes. "We're taking you to Vulcan," Umbra continued. "Our guardians will guide you in the proper use of your abilities." "Like hell you are," Blackwood snarled. "He stays on Earth under our supervision." As the argument escalated, Douglas closed his eyes, reaching out with his enhanced senses. He felt the shimmering barrier of his creation encasing the planet, a thin membrane holding back the vastness of space. But there was something else, a faint discordant note in the cosmic symphony. His eyes snapped open. "The Trithans," he said, his voice cutting through the bickering. "What did they do?" A heavy silence fell over the room. Lyra exchanged a glance with Umbra before answering. "They convinced us to seal the Nexus gates and deactivate the quantum keys. For our own protection," they said. Douglas's blood ran cold. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, ignoring the protests of his weakened body. "We need to reactivate them. Now." Blackwood scoffed. "And why should we trust you?" "Because," Douglas said, his voice resonating with newfound authority, "if we don't, the Trithans will tear reality apart." As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. A holographic display materialized, showing a massive Trithan vessel materializing above the planetary shield. "Attention, beings of Earth," Archon Prime's voice boomed. "Your planet is now under Trithan protection. Relinquish all celestial technology immediately." Douglas stood, his legs shaking but his commitment firm. He looked at the faces around him, human, Vulcan, and those caught in between. "You don't have to trust me," he said, "but we need to work together. The fate of the stars depends on it." For a moment no one moved, Then Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand on Douglas's shoulder. "I'm with you," she said softly. Umbra nodded, a grudging respect in his eyes. Even Blackwood's scowl softened slightly. As they hurried from the medical bay, formulating a plan to counter the Trithan threat, Douglas couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The true test of their fragile alliance lay ahead, and the consequences of failure were too terrible to contemplate. Douglas gripped the edges of the medical bay bed, his newfound celestial knowledge pulsing through his mind like a cosmic heartbeat. He locked eyes with each member of the fragmented alliance, sensing the tenuous threads that barely held them together. "The Trithans aren't here to protect us," he said, his voice steady despite the urgency coursing through him. "They're manipulating us, weakening our defenses. We need to reactivate the quantum keys." Lyra's eyes widened. "But how? The Trithans convinced us to seal them away." A memory surfaced in Douglas's mind, a glimmer of hope. "Not all of them. There's a fragment hidden away. If we can access it, we might just have a chance." Umbra's massive frame shifted, his voice a low rumble. "The Vulcan Guardians entrusted me with a shard of the key. It was meant for emergencies only." Blackwood's face twisted in anger. "And you didn't think to mention this earlier?" Before the argument could escalate, Douglas raised his hand. "It doesn't matter now. What matters is using it to save us all." The group made their way to a secure vault deep within the facility. As Umbra retrieved the key fragment, its blue-white energy pulsed in response to Douglas's presence. Douglas closed his eyes, reaching out with his enhanced senses. The fragment's power flowed into him, a trickle compared to the full might of the key, but enough to make reality shimmer around them. Alarms blared throughout the facility. On the holographic displays, the Trithan ship above them blazed with ominous energy. "Beings of Earth," Archon Prime's voice boomed, "you have violated our agreement. Surrender the quantum key immediately or face the consequences of your actions." Douglas stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of celestial authority. "We know your true intentions, Archon Prime. You seek to unravel the very fabric of existence." A moment of stunned silence filled the air before Archon Prime's laughter echoed through the communication channels. "Clever child of the Celestials. Yes, we will reshape reality itself. A singular, perfect vision, and you will not stand in our way." The Trithan ship's weapon systems flared to life, slamming against the planetary shield Douglas had created. The entire facility shuddered under the assault. Blackwood's face hardened, years of political maneuvering giving way to decisive action. "All Earth Defense Forces, this is Senator Blackwood. The Trithans are hostile. Engage with extreme prejudice. Protect the key at all costs." As chaos erupted around them, Douglas felt the fragment's power surge. With a gesture, he tore open a shimmering portal in the air before them. "The Celestial Realm," he explained, his voice tight with concentration. "It's our only chance. The laws of physics are different there. We might stand a fighting chance." Lyra gripped her staff, nodding in agreement. "We're with you, Douglas." One by one, they stepped through the portal. The world around them shifted, reality bending in impossible ways. Streams of pure energy flowed through a realm of crystalline structures and swirling nebulae. Before them stood towering figures of pure light, the celestial avatars. Their voices resonated directly in the minds of Douglas and his companions. "Welcome, children of the stars. We have awaited this moment." The Trithan forces poured through the rift behind them, their reality-bending technology clashing against the malleable physics of the celestial realm. Archon Prime's form swelled with stolen energy, tendrils of power lashing out. "Now!" Douglas shouted, channeling the key fragment's power through his celestial bloodline. The avatars raised their arms, and the very fabric of the realm responded. Reality warped and buckled as two ideologies clashed. The Trithon vision of a singular, controlled existence against the infinite possibilities championed by Douglas and his allies. As the cosmic battle raged, alarms blared from the devices they had brought with them. Holographic displays showed Senkethi warships descending on Earth and other allied worlds. Blackwood's face appeared, distorted by interference. "Douglas, The Tsenkethi are launching a full-scale invasion. We need you back here now. Douglas looked at the rift behind them, then at the Trithan forces before them. The weight of two worlds pressed down upon him, demanding an impossible choice. Douglas stood frozen, caught between two unthinkable choices. The rift behind him pulsed with the chaos of Earth's invasion, while before him, the Trithans threatened to unravel reality itself. Go, Lyra urged, her eyes filled with understanding. Earth needs you. But Douglas shook his head, his mind focused. If the Trithans succeed, there won't be an Earth to save. With a pang of regret, he gestured towards the rift. Senator, you need to lead the defense. I have to stay here and finish this. Blackwood's holographic image flickered, his face a mask of iron will. Understood. Godspeed, Douglas. As the rift sealed shut, cutting off Earth from the celestial realm, Douglas turned to face the avatars. Their forms shimmered with celestial energy, voices resonating directly in his mind. You have chosen wisely, child of two worlds, they intoned. But to face the Trithans, you must first prove yourself worthy. The realm around them shifted, reality bending like liquid glass. Douglas found himself transported to a series of metaphysical trials, each more challenging than the last. He navigated impossible geometries, deciphered cosmic riddles, and faced his deepest fears made manifest. With each trial overcome, Douglas felt his connection to the quantum key fragment grow stronger. The avatars guided him, their wisdom unlocking new facets of his celestial heritage. The Trithans were once like us, an avatar revealed as Douglas caught his breath between trials. A faction that sought to control all of existence rather than nurture its infinite possibilities. An Archon Prime? Douglas asked, piecing together the cosmic puzzle. The most corrupted of all, another avatar answered, consumed by the desire to become the sole architect of reality. As Douglas delved deeper into the mysteries of the celestial realm, his thoughts turned to his allies fighting desperate battles across the galaxy. Through his enhanced senses, he caught glimpses of their struggles. Umbra rallied Vulcan forces against Tsenkethi warships, his tactical genius tested to its limits. Lyra led daring raids on enemy strongholds, her staff crackling with energy as she struck down foes. And on Earth, Blackwood coordinated a global defense, his political savvy now turned to the art of war. With each passing moment, the weight of Douglas's choice pressed harder upon him. He pushed himself to the brink, knowing that every second spent in training meant more lives lost to the Tsenkethi invasion. Finally, after what felt like an eternity compressed into mere hours, Douglas stood before the avatars once more. His body hummed with newfound power, the quantum key fragment pulsing in harmony with his celestial blood. You have proven yourself worthy, the avatars declared. Now you must make a choice that will reshape the very fabric of existence. Before Douglas could respond, reality shuddered around them. Archon Prime's forces had breached the outer layers of the celestial realm, their corrupted technology warping the laws of physics. We are out of time, Douglas said, his voice resonating with newfound authority. I'm ready. The avatars raised their arms in unison, channeling cosmic energies into Douglas. The quantum key fragment blazed with blinding light, its power flowing into every fiber of his being. As Douglas's physical form dissolved, replaced by pure energy, he felt the full weight of the quantum key's power course through him. He was no longer just Douglas. He had become a living conduit of cosmic forces. Archon Prime's massive form loomed before him, tendrils of corrupted energy lashing out. You cannot hope to stand against me, child, the Trithan leader boomed. I will remake all of existence in my image. Douglas met Archon Prime's gaze, his own eyes now twin pools of starlight. Not if I have anything to say about it. Their wills clashed, reality fracturing and reshaping around them. Entire galaxies were born and died in the space between heartbeats as Douglas and Archon Prime fought for control of the cosmos itself. Just as Douglas began to gain the upper hand, Archon Prime's form swelled impossibly larger. The Trithan leader's laughter echoed across dimensions. Behold my ultimate triumph! Douglas watched in horror as an entire galaxy cluster began to warp and distort, its energy being siphoned into a monstrous weapon. "With this," Archon Prime gloated, "I will erase all other forms of existence. Only my perfect vision will remain." In that moment, Douglas knew what he had to do. With a thought, he tore open the fabric of space-time, creating an unstable singularity at the heart of the galaxy cluster. "No!" Archon Prime howled, realizing too late what was happening. Douglas poured the full might of the quantum key into the singularity, his consciousness expanding to encompass billions of doomed worlds. He felt the terror and confusion of countless beings in their final moments, their lives sacrificed to save the rest of existence. As the galaxy cluster collapsed in on itself, taking Archon Prime's doomsday weapon with it, Douglas's form began to unravel. He had pushed the limits of his newfound power too far, too fast. The last thing he saw before his consciousness scattered across the cosmos was Archon Prime's form being torn apart by the singularity's pull. Then, everything went dark. Dark, cold, empty. Douglas's consciousness drifted through the void, fragments of his being scattered across the cosmos. Time held no meaning in this state of non-existence, yet awareness persisted. A pulse, a flicker of energy, the remnants of the quantum key stirred within him, drawing his essence together like iron filings to a magnet. Slowly, agonizingly, Douglas coalesced into a semblance of coherent thought. The universe unfolded before him, a tapestry of light and shadow. He saw Archon Prime, twisted and monstrous, gorging on the energy of the collapsed galaxy cluster. The Trithan's form swelled with stolen power, reality bending around him like a heat mirage. Douglas reached out, desperate to stop the abomination he had inadvertently empowered. But his non-corporeal state rendered him helpless, a silent observer to the unfolding catastrophe. Across the cosmos, he witnessed the fall of world after world to the Tzenkethi onslaught. Earth's defenses crumbled as Senator Blackwood barked orders from a makeshift bunker, his face gaunt with exhaustion and despair. "We've lost Tokyo," a Haggard aide reported. "Beijing is under heavy bombardment." Blackwood's fist slammed against a flickering holographic display. "Where are those reinforcements from Mars?" "The Tzenkethi fleet has blockaded the entire system, sir. Nothing gets in or out." In the vast emptiness of space, Umbra's remaining Vulcan ships limped away from yet another devastating engagement. The massive warrior's voice crackled over the comms, strained but unbroken. "Regroup at coordinates Delta 9. We make our stand there." Lyra's face appeared on the screen, her eyes haunted. "Umbra, we've lost half our fleet. How can we possibly—" "We fight," Umbra interrupted. "Until our last breath, we fight." As Douglas observed their hopeless struggle, he felt a surge of energy. The lingering power of the quantum key sparked within him, and for a brief moment he manifested as a shimmering apparition on the bridge of Umbra's flagship. Lyra gasped, "Douglas!" His form flickered, unstable. "No time," he managed, his voice echoing as if from a great distance. "Ancient forge world, celestial constructs, only hope." With tremendous effort, Douglas projected a star map into their minds, highlighting a long-forgotten system deep in uncharted space. Then, his energy spent, he faded from view. Umbra's eyes narrowed. "Plot a course, maximum stealth." The battered Vulcan fleet vanished into the depths of space, pursued by Tzenkethi warships. As they raced towards their last, desperate chance at salvation, Douglas felt himself pulled in another direction. He found himself drawn to the corrupted form of Archon Prime, now a being of pure energy and malevolence. The Trithan leader's consciousness brushed against Douglas's, and for a terrifying moment, their minds touched. Archon Prime's thoughts were a maelstrom of chaos and destruction. Douglas recoiled, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the Trithan's plans. Entire galaxies would be unmade, reality itself reshaped to Archon Prime's twisted vision. But in that brief contact, Douglas glimpsed something else. A weakness, a flaw in Archon Prime's connection to the singularity. If he could exploit it, there might be a chance to undo the damage he had wrought. Douglas retreated, gathering what remained of his strength. He had set events in motion, guiding his allies towards a sliver of hope. Now he had to prepare for the ultimate confrontation. As his consciousness expanded, touching the very foundations of the celestial realm, Douglas sensed other presences, ancient, powerful, beyond mortal comprehension. The spirits of long-dead celestials stirred, awakened by the dire threat to all existence. Their voices resonated within him, each word a symphony of creation and destruction. "The hour is upon us, child of two worlds. Are you prepared to pay the final price?" Douglas's answer echoed across the cosmos, a defiant cry against the encroaching darkness. "Whatever it takes." Takes. The universe shuddered, reality fracturing like brittle glass. Douglas's consciousness scattered across the cosmos, each fragment bearing witness to the devastation wrought by his final play. Galaxies lay in ruins, their once vibrant stars reduced to cold, lifeless husks. The remnants of the celestial realm drifted like cosmic flotsam, pulsing with residual energy that sent ripples through the fabric of existence. In this shattered landscape, Douglas's disembodied awareness coalesced, drawn to the echoes of life that persisted amidst the chaos. He saw Earth, a scarred sphere barely recognizable as the cradle of humanity. Cities lay in smoldering ruin, the atmosphere choked with ash and radiation. Senator Blackwood stood before a sea of makeshift graves, his shoulders sagging under the weight of countless lives lost. As cameras flashed and drones buzzed overhead, he spoke, his voice cracking with emotion. "I hereby resign from my position as Earth's representative. The blame for this devastation lies squarely on my shoulders. I failed you all." Douglas yearned to reach out, to offer comfort or wisdom, but his ethereal form could only observe in silence. Across the cosmos, on a world of crimson deserts and towering spires, Xerxia addressed a gathering of Tsenkethi survivors. Her voice, once cold and calculating, now carried a note of desperate hope. "We were conquerors, destroyers of worlds," she proclaimed, her cybernetic implants gleaming in the harsh sunlight. "But now we must become builders. The path of atonement will be long and arduous, but it is the only way forward." Murmurs of dissent rippled through the crowd, but Xerxia stood firm, her eyes blazing with commitment. On Vulcan, Umbra and Lyra stood atop a crumbling citadel, surveying the ruins of their once proud civilization. Lyra's staff crackled with energy as she gestured towards the horizon. "We must adapt, Umbra," she urged. "Our old ways nearly led us to extinction. We have a chance to build something new, something better." Umbra's face remained impassive, his massive form silhouetted against the setting sun. "Our traditions have sustained us for millennia. To abandon them now would be to lose ourselves entirely. And clinging to them will doom us to repeat our mistakes," Lyra countered, her eyes flashing. As their debate raged on, Douglas felt a pull, drawing him towards a distant corner of the universe. There, amidst the wreckage of forgotten worlds, he found the prophet. Surrounded by a small group of acolytes, the enigmatic figure traced complex patterns in the cosmic dust. "The celestial's wisdom endures," the prophet intoned, its form shifting and flickering. "Even in this broken realm, their teachings can guide us towards a new era of enlightenment." Douglas watched as the prophet's followers absorbed every word, their eyes wide with reverence. He sensed the potential for both salvation and further conflict in their growing devotion. As his consciousness drifted between these pockets of survival and rebirth, Douglas felt the weight of his choices pressing down upon him. The celestial spirits that had aided him in his final battle were gone, leaving him adrift in a sea of cosmic debris. Yet even in his incorporeal state, Douglas could feel the reverberations of his actions rippling outward. Fragments of his hard-won knowledge seeped into the minds of those still living, manifesting as flashes of insight or vivid dreams. Some embraced these whispers from beyond, seeking to unravel the mysteries of the shattered cosmos. Others recoiled, clinging desperately to the familiar in a universe turned upside down. Douglas yearned to do more, to guide and protect those he had sacrificed so much to save. But he remained trapped between realms, a silent observer to the struggles of a wounded universe. As he watched civilizations begin the slow process of rebuilding, He grappled with the realization that the true test was only just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.